I want this channel to be kind of like a personal channel, and I said that I was going to do vlogs, and I haven't done one yet. Well, actually, I filmed a few, but then I never edited them, and then months passed, and so then I didn't put them up. So I thought maybe this will be one of my first like personal vlogs. I guess I'll just tell kind of like a little bit of background about myself. I did the 50 random things about me tag. Just those were just, you know, some things about me, but I guess I'll get a little bit more specific. My birthday's in July and I turned 31, and I'm trying not to let my age be like a big thing, because I'm sure when I look back when I'm older, 31 is going to seem young, but right now it doesn't seem that young. But anyway, so I mentioned that I'm going back to school. I'm only a sophomore in college, so obviously I'm going to be in school with people 10 years or more younger than me. So that's going to be interesting. I'm hoping, I mentioned this in my devotional that I just recorded, that there are some things that I'm praying about and waiting to find out God's answer, to find out exactly what I'm doing. I'm waiting to find out if I'm going to be able to go to school in California. I was accepted at the school, but I can't really afford it. So I'm just hoping that some other financing options come through, and I should find out in a few days. And basically, I guess I'll just give a little bit of background about myself, and why I'm 31 and just a sophomore. Well, when I was younger, I always thought that I would be interested in business things, because I used to play office, like not, I don't know if I mentioned this, my random things about me, but I didn't play like house, or, I mean, I guess I did a little, but you know, like for the most part, what I thought was fun was playing office with a briefcase and paperwork and pencils and, you know, office supplies. And I made up a company, or we used my aunt's company and stuff like that. But anyway, so I used to play office. So, and I've always been interested in starting businesses. I've actually started a few businesses, and they never really felt like as fulfilling as I thought they would be. And so, well, I guess let me back up. When I graduated from high school, I went to college right out of high school. I did not like that school at all. I just didn't like it. It was a Christian school. It was an Adventist school, and I'm Adventist, but I just felt that they were way too strict, way too hypocritical. They were so much more strict with the girls than they were with the boys. And so I was only there a semester. And then I came back, that school's in Alabama. I came back to Maryland, and I actually can't remember, because this was 2001. I think I went to like community college around here for like a little bit, and like a semester, and that just didn't seem right. And then I went to work, and I worked for a few years, and then I got sick, and I ended up leaving that job, and then I went to school again. But then I just took random classes. But classes that I liked. I took photography, because I'd always been interested in photography since I was little, and I wanted to know how to develop film and use a darkroom and stuff like that. So I took photography, I took pottery, I took painting. Anyway, so I took those classes, and they were fun, but the pottery class came back to bite me because I took them at the same community college, and then I thought, you know, it's a 2.5 hour class. My teacher seemed like a hippie. He had this long hair, and every time I showed up late, he'd just be like, hey, you know, and I was like, okay, doesn't really matter that I'm late. Wrong. He failed me. He failed me because I was late. Every time you're late, every 3 times you were late, your grade dropped a letter. So he failed me. Even though I finished the class, I did all the work, whatever, he failed me. So that came back to bite me later. So I did that for a semester, and then I went to work again for a few years. And then I got sick again. And this time, and by that time I was 24. By the time I had gone to school, went to work, gone to school, and then I worked for a few years, and then I got sick, and I got really, really sick. I got sick. I left work on short-term disability, and then it turned into long-term disability. And during the time, like for a few years before I left, at least 2 years, I had been getting sick and I didn't know what was wrong with me, but instead of going to the doctor, I just ignored it and I was like, it'll go away, it'll go away. Well, it didn't, it got worse. And so eventually it got to the point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. And then I went to the doctor, and then I went to another doctor, and then I went to another doctor, and they did all these blood tests, and nothing seemed to come up positive. So eventually I ended up leaving work because my symptoms got so bad that I couldn't work. I was just in pain all the time. So I had to leave work on short-term disability. I was hoping to be able to go back to work, but I still didn't know what was wrong with me by the time 3 months of short-term disability were up. And I did have a doctor who should have been able to diagnose me, but for whatever reason, she didn't. She thought I was making it up. She just said that, she told my mom that I should be in a mental institution or something because people that have the same symptoms that I do are able to handle their pain better. So anyway, at the time my sister was pregnant and she had a severe form of morning sickness called hyperemesis, and she ended up having to be on a feeding tube and all this stuff at the same time. So that was a great time, 2007. So, but she went to a gastroenterologist for her digestive because she couldn't keep any food down the entire pregnancy. And she said that she really liked her doctor. So I went, and within a couple weeks after he did the test, I knew what I had. And that's how good he is. I mean, well, he was just like a competent doctor. And that's a doctor that I still have today. And I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So at that point, I had already lost my job because they fired me because I couldn't go to work anymore. And they kept my job for 3 months. But after that, they were not required to hold my position anymore. And I was still in so much pain, and it had gotten so bad that I couldn't go back to work anyway. He did put me on medicine that made me feel better, but then he took me off of it because it's really strong, and you can only stay on it for a certain amount of time before it starts to wreak havoc in other areas. And then when that happened, I just hit the floor again, and it just was not good. So it would have been a mess if I went back to work anyway. So that was like, I left work in April 2007, and by July 2007, my job let me go. And then I think by like August 2007, I knew what was wrong with me. But of course, the company that had the long-term disability, and during the short-term disability, I wasn't getting paid anything. So I couldn't, it was really hard to pay all the medical bills that I had. And if it weren't for my parents, still up until this day, like I would literally be on the street because I was sick. I couldn't work. I couldn't walk. I couldn't function. And so, so then I was diagnosed, but then the insurance company, the long-term disability company through my former job, they wanted all this documentation. They just didn't want to pay the claim, basically. So I went without a salary from April 2007 to December 2007. So my parents helped me so much during that time, and I was living at home. And so then I started getting disability, but it's only a fraction of your income, and I had Cobra health insurance, which is the health insurance plan that you had before, but significantly more expensive. So that was expensive. And then the treatments that I was on and going to the doctor, I was going to the doctor so much, like every week. And so it was just expensive. But anyway, so that went on for a few years. And then about 3 years ago, my disability ended. The long-term disability had like a certain amount of time that I could be on it, so it just ended. And then so I was looking for a job and everything, and at that point, I had 3 years of time where I didn't have a job. And I worked since I was, on and off since I was 19, but I didn't have that much work experience because I left work when I was 24, almost 25. But either way, so no one wants to see a gap on your resume. And the economy sucked. So there weren't that many jobs. I applied for hundreds, literally hundreds of jobs. I never got any responses. I went on a handful of interviews, but out of the literally hundreds of resumes I sent out, I did not get, nearly as many responses. And so, at that time, I didn't know what to do, and I should have been praying, and I did pray, but not as much as I do now. My relationship with God wasn't what it is now, and so at that time, within my disability ended in July or August. And by, December or so, my car payment was behind and everything was just not working. And I started this job. I found this company that because I couldn't get like a traditional job. Like I literally applied everywhere, just to back up. Retail, office jobs, like the jobs that I've been an office manager. Like I applied for those types of jobs, of course. I applied at every airline for any job that I thought I was remotely qualified for. Handling bags, checking tickets, office jobs within every airline, each and every airline. I mean, I even said that I would relocate. I could not get a job. So